Hello everyone, and welcome back to another R tutorial video. In this video I want to wrap up our discussion talking about legends. Now if you remember back to our previous videos, we outlined how you could create a basic legend in base R. The fact that GGPLOT2 comes with a pretty solid default legend included without any extra code, and how we can tweak a couple of parameters in the legend call of base R to sort of elevate the legend slightly. And we left off the discussion with the feeling that the base R legend is relatively limited in terms of what you can do by default without having a fairly extensive understanding of other packages and really just some extra coding up front. Now, what I want to spend this video talking about is the GGPLOT2 legend and how we can really expand upon that basic default legend without any extra packages and really code that sort of makes a little bit more intuitive sense. So what I want to do is I want to quickly copy our code from the previous ggplot here. And I want to take one small change here, just for my own personal opinion. I want to make the size of the points a little bit bigger here. And I want to run this again just so that we're all on the same page with what we're looking at. So this is what we get by default with the default legend over here. And what I want to begin doing is I want to begin talking about how we can move this legend around. Now, it's a little bit confusing here because what we have to do is we have to incorporate another layer into our ggplot. And this layer is called the theme. Now, what the theme does conceptually is the theme takes all of the stuff that we've been talking about, geometries, scales, mappings, and it just sort of puts the finishing touches on it. It's all of the things that don't have anything to do with the data. Right? It's things like font type, font size, the position of the legend. Right? These have nothing to do with the data. So the way we access this is with the function theme. Now I want to take a second here and point out that there are two different themes in ggplot. There is the theme with no underscore and nothing after it. This is what's called the base theme. And this is what you're going to use to tweak all of the different parameters that we're going to talk about. There are also themes with underscores. And these themes with underscores are sort of pre-packaged plot-wide changes to the way the plot looks. And these are extremely useful. But what I want to make clear here is that if you want to do these adjustments to things like legends, and in future videos we'll talk about titles and axes titles, that all comes inside of the theme. You cannot put them inside of one of these with the underscore. So let's for now stick with just the default theme. And let's talk about moving the legend around. So similar to the way that we could specify the X parameter in the legend call, we can do something similar in the theme call for the legend by using legend.position. And what legend.position will do is it will allow us to specify where the legend goes in one of two ways. The first way is to use normal English words. We have bottom, top, left, and right. And what these are going to do is these are going to specify either the left side, the right side, the top, or the bottom for where the legend will go. And it's important to note here that this is outside of the plot. So right now the default is the left outside of the plot. Well, let's just say we wanted to go to the bottom. If we type in, if I could spell right, bottom, lowercase, capitalization is important, these are lowercase. If we run this, and then we run this here, you'll see that what we've done is we've moved the legend underneath the plot. Okay. That's really cool, and that's kind of nice. Something else that you may want to do is maybe you like the way that base R does it, or maybe you're trying to save space and you actually do want to have the plot inside of the legend inside of the plot. Now that works a little bit differently. It uses the same parameter, legend.position, but instead of passing in a single string parameter, you pass in a vector, and that's what this C is. And you pass in the vector with two numbers. The first number goes between 0 and 1, and it specifies how far along the x-axis you want the legend to go. And then the second number is how far along the y-axis you want the legend to go. So for example, if we do 0.95 and 0.95, this is going to go 95% of the way along the x-axis and 95% of the way along the y-axis. You then couple this with something called legend.justification, which specifies which two corners you want the legend to, basically saying which corner do you want this to apply to. Do you want the top right corner to be 95% of the way, or do you want the top left corner, the bottom left, bottom right, etc.? So let's go ahead and show you what this looks like with the top and right. And I have made a mistake somewhere in here. Theme, legend position, legend justification. Oh, I am sorry. I actually mixed these two up. It should have been right and top. There we go. So if we run this, you'll see that what's happened here is we went to the right top corner, so that's the upper right corner here. And this upper right corner is 95% of the way along the x-axis and 95% of the way along the y-axis. So if we wanted it in the upper left-hand corner, what we would do here is we would say we want to be 5% of the way along the x-axis, and we want to justify the left top corner. If we run this, so as you can see, once we get the code to execute, we end up with the legend in the upper left because we have the left top corner pinned 5% of the way along the x-axis and 95% of the way along the y-axis. So hopefully that made sense. If anything felt confusing, I encourage you to go back, rewatch the video, and as always, please reach out. Thank you.